Welcome to Reboot with Dr. Arasi Maran. I have a wonderful, wonderful guest here with me. She is going to be an absolute treat. I have Ms. Bitten Jonsson, who is a practicing registered nurse and has now become an addiction coach. And she also practices holistic medicine and uses different platforms, uses all her energy in helping people with different forms of addiction. Most importantly, sugar addiction. As you all know, Reboot with Dr. Arasi Maran is a platform. I bring different people to talk about different aspects of metabolic health. I primarily believe carbohydrate addiction or sugar addiction is the root cause of all our problems. And I honestly am so excited to have Ms. Bitten here. Good. Welcome, Bitten. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing great. A little bit cold. It's cold and snowing here today in Sweden, in the middle of Sweden. So it's a little bit chilly.
But thank you. Thank you for joining me. And you were saying there's a big snowstorm coming up. I hope you're all geared up for that.
Yeah. But it's going to come later and over tomorrow. So, I'm fine now. But it is snowing a little bit and cold.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Bitten. So, can you please tell me and my audience, what was your journey like? You started as a nurse, but now you work with, addiction folks and you talk about sugar not as a pleasure substance, but more as an addictive substance. Please elaborate.
Okay. I was working at the Karolinska University Hospital as a nurse and clinical supervisor. And I was in the internal medicine environment. I had several wards with internal medicine. And, I saw people come in and I sort of thought maybe they have an alcohol problem or, something pill problem, but that's all. We never addressed it and talked about it. Then I met my husband. He was an engineer over in Sweden, and I moved to California with him, and I realized I love drinking alcohol a lot. I loved alcohol. I felt very good at that in the beginning, but of course, as with any addiction, more and more and more. So my ex-husband forced me into treatment, and that time I wanted to strangle him because I didn't want to be an addict. I was a nurse and blah, blah, blah. But that was the most life-changing event in my life. So I spent several weeks in one of the best treatment centers in the U.S. at that time in California. Capistrano by the Sea was the name. And they introduced me to addiction medicine and the reward center and dopamine. In Sweden, if you were drinking, you were a morally bad person. That was, some people still think that. They did not talk about it as an illness. And here I met scientists and researchers and skilled professionals that said, it's an illness. Don't you know that? And I go, no. So anyway, they de-shamed me because they took away my shame because I was, of course, shameful over not controlling my drinking. So anyway, to make a long story short, I started in recovery the 27th of September, 1985, and I'm still in remission recovery all these years. I love it. Yeah, thank you. But I have leaned on the pillars, the people that were ahead of me, that were skilled, that could teach me, because that is what I needed. I needed to understand what is addiction. Why did I do like I did? So I started to study everything addiction, everything. And I went to a lot of conferences, and then I met Terry Gorski. He was the founder of relapse prevention and relapse treatment. So in 92, I met him, and he encouraged me to quit smoking, which I did for 7 years, although I didn't drink, and, eating better because I didn't eat so well. I thought I could eat ice cream for a whole day and then bacon for a whole day. As a nurse, I had no knowledge about nutrition. That is horrifying today, but that was still in that way. So I quit that, and then I fell into a big brown hole, which was called chocolate.
Oh, yes, chocolate.
And I could die for chocolate. And, I realized I had the same addictive patterns, hiding, lying, sneaking, as I did with the alcohol. Mm. And I got physical consequences. I had volatile blood sugar. which made me 1 minute feel high and the next minute feel in the basement, depressed, down, no energy. So I started to study that, and I realized, oh no, I'm addicted again. Now this time to sugar. But I had to bite the sour apple, as we say in Sweden. And then I asked, where can I get help? And that was in Chicago at the Lutheran General Hospital. So I went there in 92 and I trained with Terry Gorski. So anyway, that's how I learned about sugar addiction. But at that time, we talked about food addiction. But when I came home to Sweden, because I moved back with Sweden then, and I started working with people, I said, do you think you have a problem with food? And they said, no, I have no problem with food. But what about sugar? I said, oh my God, everybody said, sugar is, I can't resist it. Ice cream, pasta, bread, chocolate, candy. I can't stop eating it. So that's why I decided early on to call it sugar addiction and not food addiction. But of course, you said a very good thing, carb. So I always say sugar / parenthesis carb addiction. And then I started to talk about that and learning about that. And people called me everywhere. They called me and said, help me. I'm eating myself to death. My doctor is laughing at me. The health nurse doesn't take me serious. How can I stop? How can I stop? So I thought, oh my God, I wasn't planning to work with it. But people stood at my doorstep. I had to start working on it. So I did. And I tried to learn as much as possible. And I started running groups. The first group was in 94.
Wow.
We had a live little group and we shared how terrible hard it was in this society with the early exposure when we were children for sugar and the constant exposure everywhere you go. There's food, bakery, food, and also the food pushers and the saboteurs, the people that maybe themselves don't want to quit. But some people, they are ignorant or arrogant, or some people just don't know. Well, you could have a little bit, just a little bit. So it was a tough world. But, the groups grew and grew and grew. And I started doing longer and longer treatment, like 1 week. And I even started a treatment center. I still get messages from people that were in my treatment. I have a new life thanks to this knowledge. And I could cry when I think about it. But, that's been very important for me to teach people about what is sugar addiction. So that's one of my main issues, to teach about the brain and not only the reward center. And everybody talks about dopamine, but there is a whole array, is a whole cadre of neurotransmitters involved and hormones. So it's about GABA, serotonin, endorphin, noradrenaline, adrenaline, and so on. So that's what I teach, how you get an oversensitive reward system that later on might get you into alcohol addiction, pill addiction, any addiction, because sugar is a gateway drug. Absolutely. It paves the way in the reward center. But not only that, what more it does? About the reptilian brain, fight, flight, sex, food, right? Yes. Instincts, very hardwired in us. And the reptilian brain doesn't learn from experience and it doesn't have a language. So once the reward center starts chasing the drug, the reptilian brain is chasing after it, saying, eat or you die, eat or you die. So now you have a double problem. Now you have an oversensitive reptilian brain. And that's not very negotiable. It takes over. So you lose control now. And you feel even more miserable. You don't want to talk to people about that. Why can't I control it? And you try every diet and pills and powders and methods and therapy and blah, blah, blah. But you know what happened more? Now, during the carbs you eat, and you know this very well, here you're even more skilled than I am, what's the pancreas going to do? Well, it's trying to keep up with the imbalance. So it is squirting insulin. And the more insulin, the more metabolically ill you're going to get.
Absolutely.
So now you are hooked in this triad, reward center, reptilian brain, and the pancreas.
Mm-hmm.
And this is running the show every day. And you try to fight it, and you try to fight it. And the more you fight, the sicker you get.
Absolutely.
So that's how I understood that metabolic health has to be included. That's why I got so excited when you texted me. Oh, she works with that. Oh, she has this part much better than I do. Because as an addiction specialist, I'm very focused on the addictive part. But I include metabolic health. And I have some people in my training teaching that. But, we need more.
Yeah.
And then I see a society or medical professionals and everywhere, they don't look at the center of the illness. As you said, it's behind everything.
Yes.
They look at the diabetes, the obesity, the inflammation, the depression. They are only consequences of addiction.
Yes.
Which is a huge battle people have, which they call me. They try everything, and then they called me and said, I'm at the end of the rope. Can you help me? And I said, sure, I can give you knowledge, and you have to take charge of your life. Yeah. But you can't do that unless you know. So that's how I ended up in this. So I didn't really start it or ask for it.
True. It chose you.
People ask me for help, and then I have, of course, developed, a diagnostic tool and treatment models and all that. So now I don't take any clients anymore, but I do teach professionals everywhere to how to help clients. So that's awesome. That was a long story.
But it's a beautiful story. You hit so many points, and you touched upon my own journey too. In 2016, I kind of realized I'm a sugar addict, a complete chocolate addict. I used to buy these boxes of Belgian chocolate. And I would buy 6 boxes at a time, and I would hide it in different places so that my husband does not catch it. And literally, and when I get to the 4th box, I would get anxiety that the box of chocolates are getting over. And then I would literally get anxiety. And then I would be like, I have to go buy it. And my husband's like, Arasi, you have to stop. And then, in alcoholism, they have cage questions, right? Do you get anxiety? Do you get irritable when people talk about it? Do you use alcohol as an eye opener? I wasn't using alcohol, but I was using chocolate. Then I was like, okay, enough is enough. We need to get rid of it. And I truly went on a low carb journey. But during the low carb journey, I noticed because I was not having the dopamine hit from chocolate, I was grabbing a glass of alcohol. And
of course. Very natural. Yeah.
But I was like, oh my God, no, I'm not going to replace one evil with a different evil. And I was like, nope. And then I definitely remember this period in my life where I became profoundly depressed. I would go to work and sleep the entire weekend because the weekend had no joy because I was not drinking or eating chocolate. I mean, my life had no meaning.
I know.
To be dramatic. Yeah. And then I literally had to coach myself, find different ways to bring joy, which is not related to food, which is not related to alcohol. This podcast was one of those ways, and exercising was another way. And, so you are absolutely right. And even during this podcast process, I've spoken to endocrinologists and everyone, obesity medicine specialists about GLP-1s and etc. And I tried to bring in, hey, don't you guys think you're not addressing the root cause that we are all kind of obsessed or, a thing? And how is that has not become big? How is that coaching people to get out of this is not as massive as the GLP-1, because the GLP-1 industry is now $1 trillion industry.
I know. Yeah.
But the coaching industry has not grown. It's grown, but it's not to that same extent.
Well, it's not as popular because, I have treated close to 7,000 people since 92. And so I could say, yes, I know this illness by heart in every little piece of the cell or the mitochondria, if you want to look at it that way. And what I see is that so many people one thing that's very noticeable that you got to think about 10 to 12 years ago, we had processed foods, which was evil in itself, but they did contain a few micronutrients. So people were not as sick. And then came the ultra processed food,
Yes.
which is more highly addicted and more shit in it, excuse my French, and so on. So, but no micronutrients. So now the people that were sick before are sicker today. And, you know, they have something called PAW, post-acute withdrawal all the time. Their brain is so wrongly wired and so depleted of nutrition. And the mitochondria they are in a sleeping center, as I joke and say, on a resting home. So that's why when you meet people today, it demands a tremendous amount of knowledge from the professionals to get somebody up on the wagon and get them going.
Yeah.
And it's very tedious work. So it's easier to prescribe Ozempic or something like it, or do a gastric bypass or a sleeve, which is horrible, because I think you know too, the nutritional depletion that comes with it. Keep eating junk food on Ozempic, making you still sick, doesn't fix that. And also with the surgeries and, you know, brutal diets for a short while and then up again and back again.
Yeah.
So that is actually, we don't, help with the underlying metabolic brokenness and heal that, which takes energy, which takes time, which demands a lot of us professionals to coach somebody up there and going. And, you know, also the whole society, and I don't know who's behind this, but it's like the word addiction is scary to so many. And I don't like to come up with a new phrase because addiction is Latin. It comes from the word addicere. It means enslaved. And that's what we need to address. That you're not running the show. The food is running your show. The carbs.
Yes.
It's running your life show. Is that the way you want it to be? So we have to do the biochemical repair. We have to heal the brain. We have to do methylation. We have to re-hook the brain up.
Yes.
And, you know, that takes 12 to 24 months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So if you want to heal a brain, so people come to me and said, you know, I'm really overweight. Could you help me to lose weight? And I said, no, I'm not a weight coach. But I'll tell you what, if you listen to me and I can help you heal your brain and your overall well-being, you will lose weight automatically.
Yes.
But, you know, only helping people with weight loss and not addressing the biochemistry, the microbiome, you know, all the things that have gone wrong, it's not going to work.
See, the problem is sugar is such an accepted form of addiction.
I know.
We give children like Halloween candy, birthdays, all special occasions.
Christmas, Easter.
Rewiring.
Yeah.
Exactly. We keep rewiring them with this terrible stuff. It's available everywhere. Even now when I walk across an airport, it's so hard, like, because all my favorite European candy is right there. And
I know.
Speaking to me.
And the smell. And you know what? If we have developed, it is a predisposed vulnerability to become sugar addicted. Not everybody eating sugar will be addicted. Remember that. But if we have that, we are much more sensitive to what we call the cue-induced cravings. And that's what the food industry knows. Mm-hmm. That's why they expose these huge rolls and huge pieces of chocolate, and the smell and the sight and the sound, like at the movie theater, that triggers our craving. So physically, so it's not something you could choose or not choose. Isn't that very nasty?
Yeah. They just try to rewire our brain, and then it's a machine. It becomes a well-oiled machine. We start young. Our high schoolers are completely addicted. The high schoolers go young adults, and they live the worst lifestyle in general. And then they come to me. Earlier, I used to have patients in their 70s. Then it became 60s. Now I have patients in their 40s with terrible coronary artery disease. And I'm like, how did this happen? And it all, and when I sometimes tell my patients, you have to change the way you eat. The anger that I see in their face, like I have
know.
told them, I mean, they are like, what? Oh, you doctors
Give
have
me
no
a
other.
pill.
And then we have another school says, oh, the doctors are only talking about medications. They never talk about behavioral change. I mean, like,
No, lifestyle medicine, they can't spell to lifestyle medicine. And that's where you always should start. And the rumor, the myth, the ingrained thing is that fat causes heart illness. How do we get out of that? How do we tell them that it is the sugar, the carbs, the fructose? Do you have a good way of saying that to people? Do they get angry with you?
They get angry. I still get questions about, oh, why should we still take statins and things like that? It's very, I always can say there are, like how you said, there are people who can eat sugar and don't become addicts. There are people who can eat whatever they want and nothing happens to them. But then there's this hyper predisposed people who have to be extremely careful. I can breathe food and I will gain weight. That's my metabolism.
I'm the same. Exactly. It's a good weighing. I can see it in the store. And it jumps into me. Yep.
Literally. So we are all made differently. I really wish I can say, but if you are eating good, healthy fats, which is good for your body, it's going to help heal. Your brain is just fat. It's a glob of fat, which is electrified and has neuronal connections. All our hormones are different fat molecules, right?
Yep,
we need the fat. But if you're going to go even in the low carb diet, I'm like, there's a good way to do a low carb diet and there's a terrible way to do a low carb diet. If you just go eat like bacon throughout the day and think that's going to be okay, that's not okay. You need everything, and you have to. The problem is we can't fix common sense or the lack of common sense, and a lot of people seem to have deficiency of that.
Yeah. Now, I always tell people, remember, our fingerprints are all different. We are biochemically unique.
Yes.
You have to face that. They can, but you can't. Yes. Okay, here's the deal. That's one thing, And also, the thing you said very, very early is that I'm sorry to, there's a saying which we use. I will do you a disservice if I'm not honest with you.
Absolutely.
So you can be as angry as you want, and if you don't want to do what I'm telling you, there's a door. I don't scratch on ice. I don't argue with people or mess around. I said, welcome back when you're ready to listen.
Yeah.
So that's what you have to do. And you can go for a second opinion or whatever you want. But, and that's why I developed the sugar diagnostic tool so I can diagnose sugar addiction. Because I don't like to treat guesswork.
Absolutely.
If somebody come to me and, they say, I think I might be an addict, I said, okay, let's look if it is true. Because you have to understand that if you have a harmful use, moderation, eating could be good. And you might, do different improvements in your lifestyle, but you don't have to be 100% abstinent as an addict has.
Yes.
The same with alcohol. So if you don't know the right questions or interview techniques, how would you know if somebody has harmful use or addiction? You don't. And I don't think you're going to kill somebody. You're not going to kill a harmful user by giving them the addiction regime, but it is not so necessary to be that strong. True. But it could be very serious if you take an addict and deal with them as a harmful user. They will become sicker. And they are not going to make it. So that's why you have to be honest. You have to know, what are you dealing with? I mean, as a heart specialist, you don't go on random give people stuff, right?
Absolutely.
No.
Only if they need it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. But you make sure you are really looking at, you take blood tests, you do echoes, you do MRI, you really, what am I dealing with? Mm-hmm. Then you base your suggestion on what you see. But with addiction, it's like people just go haphazard. Maybe you should take away this, or it's like they don't want to understand. It is a deadly serious brain illness. Sorry, folks, but that's what it is. And you have to know if you have it.
Yes, absolutely. So let's go back to why. Can you explain what is happening in the brain? When the brain gets exposed to sugar, what happens
Okay.
to? Yeah, let's start.
Yeah, okay. Sugar is a psychoactive substance. And, I learned that when I was 1973, when I started my nursing, and I worked in the maternity ward. And, when you take the PKU blood test in the heel of the baby, you give them 30% oral solution in the mouth. So that is not a painkiller in the heel, right?
Yes.
So already then I started thinking, so it must affect some neurotransmitter. And then I learned it was the opioid system, the endorphins. Sugar is affecting neurotransmitters. That was my first clue. And then when I started studying addiction medicine, I understood, a psychoactive substance release of neurotransmitters. And if you have this sensitivity, you're going to get a stronger effect of the release than somebody that doesn't get addicted. So it's not something you choose or not. It's like being brown-eyed or blue-eyed or whatever.
Black hair or blonde hair, whatever.
Yeah, so you get a real wonderful rush. And of course you're going to do it again and again and again. But with time, what's going to happen is that you are using up the neurotransmitters. So now you have a lot of receptors, but you don't have any, which I call the keyholes when I explain to patients, right, in the synapses. And then, but you don't have enough keys. So how do you feel? Well, you start feeling hangover or miserable. You start feeling tired and moody and So what do you think going to fix that? Well, more sugar, right?
Yep.
So now you have a hidden craving to try to remedy the withdrawal and your negative feelings and all that. So you take more. And what's going to happen? Less neurotransmitters, more empty receptors, and you're going to take more. So now the sensitivity goes down over time from the effect of the drug. But you know what? The craving increases.
Absolutely.
These are two curves. One goes down, the other one go up. So you're going to eat more and more. So you start hiding, lying, sneaking, and now you start getting other consequences. Your microbiome gets shot, you don't break down food. All the gluten might ruin your villi. So the uptake is going bad and blah, blah, blah. I mean, we could go on and on. You start getting a lot of consequences.
Absolutely.
But you can't stop. You try to stop, but you can't because nobody teaches you. So now that is how you have the oversensitive reward center. That huge release will create a loss of neurotransmitters with too many It's like, think of it as a little nest with birds. They're very hungry. They scream all the time. And if you don't feed them, they're going to scream higher. So now your reptilian brain is waking up and saying, hey, we don't get enough food. What's going on here? We need more food. And then it's going to drive you. It's not going to, you don't hear a voice that say, hi, I'm your reptilian brain, eat or you die. It's not in that way, but it's going to drive you towards situations and places where you can eat more because it thinks it's going to die if you don't eat. That's a chemical effect. It's nothing you're doing. And now, of course, all the carbs has squirted out insulin, as I said in the beginning. And what's going to happen to your blood sugar? It's going to drop like crazy. And you're going to you can even feel suicidal. You feel very depressed. Wow. And the stupid thing is that the society thinks that people eat because they are depressed. They are depressed because they eat the wrong food. They have volatile blood sugar. So now, you start gaining weight. Your microbiome is even worse off. You don't break down food. You don't have enough hydrochloric acid in your stomach anymore because you eat the wrong foods. So you don't break it down. It doesn't go out in your body. So now you're malnutritioned.
Yeah.
So what does this system do? It screams, we gotta have more. So that's what's happened. So a lot of people are only focusing on looking at the reward system in the brain, but you have to see the bigger picture. That's why I call my teaching Connect the Dots.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you have to calm down reward system. You have to help the client calm down the reptilian brain, and you have to heal the insulin resistance. Otherwise, the body doesn't work.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, this is truly what was going on. I used to, whenever I'm on call, and if I have to go for an emergency heart attack, I'll immediately grab a piece of chocolate because it was a stress. And I just wanted to make sure I was feeling great throughout the case. Then I would finish my procedure. It's usually 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever. Then in 2 hours, my blood sugar is coming down. I've also physically exerted myself. And instead of actually eating another wholesome meal, I'll go grab another piece of chocolate.
Of course.
Next case. And I was just like running on sugar till I was like, this is ridiculous. I cannot, sugar cannot be my only source of nutrition. And then, went through a self-cleaning process. But having said that, having been through all that, Bitten, and having a lot of this knowledge, stressful times are still a big weakness for me. Emotionally charged times where I'm not able to tell my own brain, stop, calm down, or I forget to do the breathing, like what you talked about. Stressful times are, what is that?
That's a relaxator.
Ah, okay.
I'm an instructor in conscious breathing, and it's so easy to learn. You learn it in a few minutes, and then we have, this little tool, which is a membrane in. So when you have a craving and when you're stressed, you start using this. In through your nose, blow slowly out here. It's the exhale that is important.
Okay.
So that's one of the tools. And when I'm stressful, I tape my mouth at night.
Okay.
I'm going to send you information. This is the best.
Please.
I mean, I've done a lot of training, as a coach.
Yes, you said
but,
7,000
these are
patients.
the easiest
That's a lot.
and the best thing you can use. I teach people this in my first session because every addict or person that's stressed overbreathe. I mean, we overeat, overbreathe, over energy, over. We are high strung, crash, high strung, crash. So that's how you start working with stress. Instead of grabbing chocolate, you grab this. Yep. And also then you have to learn about risk situations and warning signs, which I teach my clients.
Oh, that's interesting.
So they are aware long before they come to grabbing the piece, the first bite, because then, you're lost when you grab the first bite. Then the brain goes, oh, finally, more. That one. So then we teach the risk situation. Okay, I'm on call tomorrow. I might get a heart attack. How do I prepare for it? So then there are certain procedures you can do. So when that happens, you're calm. You don't grab the junk food, which is going to make it worse.
Yeah.
And, and then warning signs. What are your warning signs? And I'm sure as a young woman having a high skilled work as you do, I would probably think that you somewhere along the line think that you have to do better, more, and higher, and you are a high achiever. I nailed you. I love
that was too easy.
Well, it takes one to know one, right? And that pattern, when we have to race to the occasion, we are like, oh yeah, I mean, we're on. But we also, many of the times, we use up too much of the fuel we have because we are high strung. We want to do really good. And we study and we blah, blah, blah. And you'll probably be a good mother and a good housewife and God knows what. Yeah, I know.
No, housewife part struggles, but mother, I work for it.
See, right? But anyway, that means that your stress level is easily raised. So you need to learn your own pattern of risk situations, starting with, I'm going to be best, good at high achiever, to what does that make you? Well, you're going to be tired. And, we don't like to be tired. We want to be up there all the time. So what does tired feel for me? What do I need? Do I need a 2-minute break? Do I need to take a half a day off? How do I lower the system so that I'm more in charge, but not up here?
Mm-hmm.
And then, because if this goes on, the warning sign chain, if you don't acknowledge being tired, you're going to be irritated and you're going to think that other people are slow, lazy, or stupid. You're going to start, because you're geared up.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But see, but those feelings are only dangerous for you, not for the surrounding. And we might start thinking that they are bad. They are lazy. They don't do what we want them to do. And it could be all kinds of system, but I think you understand. So then we come to a point when we go blank. It's like a blackout.
Mm-hmm.
And we grab the chocolate.
Yes.
So if we don't see this chain and address each part of this chain, we are always in danger in a risk situation. So these are teachings that we need to have.
You've said it so beautifully, and I truly understood every piece of what you said because I've been through those pieces. And there are days where I catch myself, I'm like, oh my God, need time for a break. Or there are days I don't. And then, that's why my own safety nets is make sure I do my meditation at least 3 times a week, because sometimes getting to the third day is very hard and things like that. I feel like we didn't talk about one thing, the signs of sugar addiction. You mentioned it, but we didn't elaborate it.
No. Well, on my website, you have a lot of information, and you have a screening instrument called UNCOPE, 6 simple questions. And if you have 2 or more, if you have 2 or more, you have a problem. But signs are, once you start, you can't stop. You keep eating, okay? The other one is that, you have loss of control over seeing, smelling, and being in, the vicinity of the drug. You have drug-seeking behavior. Unconsciously, you rather go out, I would rather go and have coffee with you because you use cookies and shit too, then I go with my friend that only want a cup of tea. That's boring, right?
Yeah.
This is before I have the knowledge. But we look up situations that we do this. And then other signs are that we neglect certain things that we used to do when we were in balance. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to take the walk. I don't want to do that. I lay in front of TV and eat instead then. So those 6 questions are very simple. And they are oriented to your craving and what happens when you eat. So if you have a problem there, if you have 4 or more yes, you are very probably addicted.
Oh, wow.
If you have 2 or more, you could also be harmful use. That's why it's important to do the next step, which is the sugar interview, the assessment. And then you can see how sick you are or if you're not. But that's, fair to people to know, what am I? Because this is a brain illness. So it's nothing it's not like you're bad having a little bit of addiction.
True. I mean, the one thing, I definitely abstained from sugar for 1.5 to 2 years. Okay. I thought my fellows will be like, Dr. Maran, what are you taking? Why are you so hyper? Somehow getting me off sugar, my brain just opened and it was like, oh, wow. Everything is brighter. And when I read about this, I was like, oh my God, people are smoking something. There is no way it's going to make such a big difference. But it happened to me. After like 2 weeks of no sugar, I definitely went through the metabolic change. I was down for 4 days. But somehow when I came out, everything was brighter, and I'm like, it did happen to me, and I don't believe in woo-woo stuff. And when this happened to me, I had to be like, oh shoot, it's happening kind of a stuff. And now I think it's a controlled phase. I'm not completely abstaining, but the chatter is still there in my brain. Okay. I don't appreciate that chatter. I hate it. I don't appreciate it at all. So there are people like me, high functional, high achieving, who think the cat is inside the box or the genie is inside the box, but the genie still seems to be coming up and down.
That's what I teach. I heard this Indian story many, many years ago about, a red dog and a blue dog inside of the head. The father is saying to his son, my son, why are you doing naughty things that is not good for you or other people? And the son said, well, Dad, there is a fight in my head with the blue dog and the red dog. And there is, or white or black wolf. There are many names on this, but I read, yeah. And then the son say that when the red dog wins, that's when I do the bad stuff. Okay. And of course, the enigma and, the question, the father say, okay, who do you think gonna win? The one you feed or nurture, not feed food, feed, nurture. So every addict had a red dog, and the red dog doesn't want to be revealed. So it usually has camouflage on, but it is pure red. And the chatter is the red dog. Red dog always wants you to go back to the drug. It's never going to give that up the rest of your life. That's why you have to realize this is a chronic illness, that you have to work your recovery program every day, one day at a time, every day. Okay? That's how to stick to being abstinent, drug-free. So what we do is two things. We reveal the red dog, make it naked. This is what it says. This is how it does. This is how it fooled me, Okay, so that's one thing we do. We work a lot with that in the beginning. What does your red dog say? And then we convert that to a blue dog thought. Okay, so that's how you diminish, domesticate, and have the red dog in the basket, tied in the basket. Nice. So I used to joke and say, if you're a dog trainer, this is easy for you. It's more difficult if you're not a dog trainer. Because I use a lot of that, calm and assertive and knowledge. So what we say, in order to be drug-free and heal, you have to be honest. You have to dare look at your red dog and tell somebody else. So we help each other by saying, what's your red dog telling? Oh, I love that I'm going to go on a flight now. I'm going to go to the airport and might have, or whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so how can you change that to a blue dog recovery healing activity? How do you do that? And then we teach tools. Salutogenesis. What is healthy? What is normal? You have to teach people that, because the red dog has been jackety-jack so loud for years. They don't know. I said, what can you do to stay healthy? And they say, I don't know. We work with food, with breathing, with sleep, physical activity. We work with some supplements in the beginning to support. And because the most dangerous thing is when energy drops.
Absolutely.
So you have to heal the mitochondria. You have to biochemically heal the body. And you have ask people, what is draining your energy? And then they make a list of what's taking its energy from you. But what is giving you energy? And you have to constantly battle these, because nobody can, not have things that drain our energy. We all have that.
Life happens.
Life happens. We have to. That's what part of life. But how can you build energy? Like talking to you with your energy. I just love this. I feel, I get so much energy listening to you and chatting with you. Stuff like that. Knowledge to me.
Yes.
Learning about the body, about the brain, about the stomach, it gives me energy. Being with my dog, being out in nature, being with my family and friends, and on and on. Knitting. I love knitting. I love a lot of stuff. Space research,
Yeah.
Listening to that gives me energy. So I have to, every morning, I make a commitment. It's only one day at a time. You can never think longer than that with addiction. So I say to myself, okay, no matter what's going to happen today, I'm going to stick to my food plan. That's my keto food plan. So now I made that decision in the morning for today. And then, if I ran into problem, I share with somebody, or I have a remedy, or I do some of my recovery tools, meditation, walking, reading, calling somebody. There's always a lot of tools I can do just for today.
Yes.
And people say to me, I can never quit chocolate or whatever drug they have, bread or pop. And I said, but could you be without for one day? And they all say, yeah, one day. Okay, let's do one day. Only one day. Only 24 hours until you go to bed tonight. And then tomorrow we talk again. I said, yeah, it was horrible. Withdrawal. I said, okay, could you only do today? Only today. Now we have 2 days.
Yes. And you just build
And the thing is that you have to have a lot of support the first months, because it takes, long time to heal the most basic parts, so that you get your energy back and start thinking, oh, it's not this bad. It could have been worse. I could have a worse illness. Yeah, you could.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Bitten, we are coming close to the end of the hour here.
Sure.
So, if you have to look at someone for the first time, or what should they be looking within themselves, or what are the questions they should ask themselves, and how do they know they are ready for the next step? They might say, oh yeah, I have a sugar addiction, so what? And they might be chasing weight loss, especially with, Thanksgiving coming, the American Thanksgiving, the New Year coming, and everyone is going to wait for January 1st to start on a diet.
Well, I tell you what, you have the best tool as a medical professional understanding the metabolic body. What I would use, what I tell people is, I know this is hard. It's painful. It's a grief. It's become your best friend. But you know what? The things you eat are playing havoc with your metabolic chain. And a lot of people say, what's that? And I draw a cell. Very simple, very simple. I draw a cell and I tell them, and the blood vessel, and I give them very short. I call this speed bombing, seed bombing. I don't give a big lecture because they do have foggy brain, so they just get overwhelmed and more scared. I give little things, and I said, are you interested to learn a little bit more about how this works? How certain foods affect your metabolic chain and so forth, or would you like to learn a little bit about more nutritious food? I lure them in with that. And also, of course, when you take a metabolic profile on somebody, you have a lot to go on. You can look at and said, I understand that your weight is concerning you, and it is certainly not healthy. It must be hard on your joints and your liver, and I do stuff like that. But I don't scare them like that, but I do lure them in so that they said, yeah, this sounds interesting. Maybe I should know more about that. I said, yeah, we take that the next time. But until we meet again, could you try to do one day without your favorite drug and replace it with, and I give them examples, to eat, animal protein, good fats, and I tell them what good fats are, and veggies. And I said, could you try to eat 3 meals of that, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and see what's happening? So, that's how I do it. When I do my treatment, people know about me and how I work. So they come to me on my 4-day live, and then I blast full on. Yeah. Because they know and they are there. And then, I tell them the truth really hard. And we go cold turkey on the food.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's what I do. But you don't have that luxury of having, 20 people in a room where you can boom with knowledge. Absolutely. So you try to take them on like that, and also listen to what is their biggest problem. I used to ask them, if you, write down your health problems, like overweight, pain in my hip, in my knees, headache, whatever. Then I said, could you tell me on a scale 1 to 10, which are worse for your daily living?
Yeah.
And they said, well, my overweight is a 10. Okay, I said, in order to address that, we have to start healing your brain. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Absolutely. Healing
So
your
I
brain.
pick up, I listen to them and pick up, where they are, sense them in, and I start there.
Yeah.
There is no program that you could push on each one.
Yes. It's personalized for each of your patient.
Yeah, you have to listen and be here and there, and you have to see them and hear them.
Absolutely. So, Bitten, where can if any of my audience wants to find you or find one of your training programs, where should they go?
Sure. Well, people could, if they email me, I want help, personal help. They are more than welcome to do that. And I guide them to a good professional. They go to my website, bittensaddiction.com.
Okay. We'll put
That's
the link
easy.
in the
So there you have links to
notes.
Facebook and X and Instagram and everywhere.
Perfect.
So I'm not that active at the moment in my social media because I'm finally working on translating one of my Swedish books to English.
Oh, fantastic. Okay,
so
awesome.
It's going to be called Sugar Bomb in Your Brain and How to Heal from Sugar Addiction.
I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Bitten, this has been such a wonderful,
Yes.
50 minutes. Thank you so much. I have learned so much about myself.
Okay.
It's been an amazing, and I hope people find this helpful, reach out for help and kind of reboot their journey into the new year.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Take care, everybody, and live softly.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Bitten.
Thank you so much for listening. If you found us valuable, you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any of your favorite podcast app. And also, please consider leaving us a rating or a review, as that helps others find the podcast too. I hope you have a great week ahead.